This happened a few years ago, end of 8th grade. You know the vibe. Everyone's hyped, borderline feral with summer energy, running around with Sharpies, screaming have a great summer, like it's a spiritual chant. It was the last day of school, yearbooks were flying. People were crying for no reason and teachers were basically done trying. My school was massive, like over 1,000 kids. To stop complete chaos, teachers collected all our yearbooks and passed them around through different classrooms. The idea was that everyone would get their books back with fresh signatures from classmates, even the ones you barely talked to. But that plan had a flaw: anyone could write in your yearbook. And I mean anyone. Most people left goofy messages or bad drawings. But some took the opportunity to be jerks. A few wrote anonymous jabs at people they didn't like. And teachers couldn't catch everything. I didn't think too much of it, though, until I got mine back. I was in the car on the way home, flipping through it while my mom drove. There were all the usual notes: stay cool, don't forget band class, and one from a kid I barely knew that just said you smell weird. Nice, but then I saw something that made my stomach tighten. Near the middle of the book, under the photo of someone I didn't recognize at all, was a message in sharp, all caps handwriting: H-G-S. I'll be seeing you again. Underneath it, D. Elliot Grayson. And here's the thing, I had never met anyone named Elliot Grayson. I showed it to my mom and she just said, probably just a prank, and shrugged it off. But the way it was written, something about it felt intentional, personal. I couldn't shake it off. Anyway, that night I had a sleepover in our basement with 3 of my best friends, Josh, Khalil, and Marcus. We were doing all the classic stuff: devouring Doritos, roasting each other, and playing Call of Duty Zombies until our eyes burned. My parents' room was 2 floors up, so we were basically in our own world down there. Around 2 a.m., we were messing around on my dad's rowing machine task when we heard it. 3 knocks, slow, hard, on the storm door. We all froze. That door's in the backyard. It's a weird spot to knock on, like, you have to go out of your way to get there. Whoever it was either didn't want to wake up my parents, or knew we were down there. And then Kalo, like the fearless idiot he is, yells, "Yo, who's out there?" I wanted to strangle him. I hissed, "Why would you say that?" We all went dead silent. A few seconds passed. Then, a voice replied, "Come around to the back door." It said, high-pitched, almost cheerful. Too cheerful. And it was definitely a teenage voice. Not some drunk adult, not a kid messing around. We looked at each other. Nobody said it out loud, but we were all thinking the same thing: what if it's that Elliot guy? We crept upstairs. I peeked through the kitchen window, and my blood went cold. It was him, the same face from the yearbook, the stranger I'd never met, standing under the motion sensor light, smiling like we were old pals. Marcus moved toward the back door, ready to open it. I physically yanked him back and whispered, "I know who that is." I told them the story, about the yearbook message, about the name, about how I'd never seen this guy in my life before today. Now we were all on edge, but Elliot didn't move. He just stood there, watching us. Then, he raised his hand and motioned toward the side of the house, like he wanted me to come over, like it was some inside joke. Instead, I slid open the kitchen window just a crack and said, "Hey, I saw what you wrote." He grinned. "Told you I'd be seeing you again." Then he dropped this, "I watched you all year. You didn't even notice. Could have been friends, you know." I faked a laugh. "Yeah, totally." I asked him how he knew where I lived. No answer. He just kept smiling. Then Marcus, who was done playing nice, called him a creep and told him to leave. That's when it changed. Elliot's head twitched, like he'd been unplugged from reality. His expression went from happy-go-lucky to pure hatred in seconds. He started screaming, said my friends were parasites, said my ex hated me, said things he shouldn't have known, personal things. Then he lunged for the window. I slammed it shut and locked it just as he got there. He started banging on the glass with his fists, hard, snarling. He looked unchanged, like a rabid animal. We backed away. I could hear footsteps upstairs. My parents had finally heard the chaos and came rushing down. As soon as the lights flipped on, Elliot ran. My dad sprinted outside in nothing but boxers. But the kid was gone. We thought, okay, cops, right? But no. My parents didn't call the police. They said they'd handle it with the school in the morning. Try not to overreact. The next day, that's when we found out the truth. Elliot Grayson had been expelled 2 months before the school year ended. He wasn't supposed to be there on the last day. but his yearbook photo had already been printed. Meaning, he snuck into the school just to find my book, just to leave that message. And then showed up to my house. Nobody could find him after that. No address, no student records, nothing. It was like he and his family vanished. And I still live in that same house, that same basement. Every once in a while when I hear a knock at night, I still wonder if he's coming back. My friend Theo, let's just say he's built different, and not in a good way. He's the kind of guy who thinks being aggressive is a personality trait. He talks like every day's a war zone cloud, reckless, always bragging about how crazy he is. Somehow, despite all that, we stayed friends through high school. Maybe because there was never a boring moment around him. Maybe because chaos is contagious. The story I'm about to tell happened a couple of weeks ago, core last day of senior year, June 2023. Graduation wasn't for a few more days, so technically we were free. And like every year, it was tradition for the seniors to celebrate by getting absolutely plastered. At our school, the go-to spot for the final night was this old stone courtyard under the campus bell tower. Think hundreds of seniors all packed together under flickering streetlights, red Solo cups in hand. Bad decisions flying left and right. It was loud, messy, and weirdly emotional. Our little group, me, Theo, Cam, Ria, and Tay, were out there until around 11:30. Then we started walking back to our off-campus rental house. That's important, we weren't in dorms. We were walking through the actual city, past bars, alleyways, and, yeah, people. This city isn't exactly known for being squeaky clean at night. There's a decent population of homeless folks, most of whom keep to themselves. But that night, we ran into one who didn't. We were halfway across an intersection when this guy appeared, barefoot, eyes wide, pacing like he hadn't slept in days. He stepped directly into our path and started shouting nonsense. Something about the blood under the concrete and how we weren't real. Typical midnight lunacy, but there was an edge to it. He wasn't just rambling. He wanted attention. We started to detour around him. Everyone was trying to avoid confrontation, except Theo. Of course, Theo decides it's go time. He shouts back, "Move it. Freak, you're not a prophet, you're just cracked out," the guy snapped. He took a step toward us. Instinctively, we all tensed up. But instead of attacking, he stopped, stared, and then said something none of us understood. "You've made contact. You're marked now." Chills. Actual chills. I yanked Theo's arm and hissed, "Can you not start a war tonight?" But he just shrugged, like it was no big deal, and somehow we laughed it off. We thought it was over, until we realized he was following us. At first, he kept his distance, one block, then another. We'd look back, and there he was, keeping pace like we'd invited him to the after party. Theo, ever the genius, decided to mess with him again. "Wanna come in for pizza?" He yelled sarcastically. The guy just smiled. That's when I said, "We are not leading this guy to our house." The others agreed. But Theo, he took off running at the guy, full sprint. The man turned and bolted. Just like before, it was almost cartoonish how fast he disappeared. Theo came back laughing like he'd just won a video game. We finally reached our house, confident we'd lost him. We locked the door, drew the blinds, and tried to pretend the whole thing was over. Fast forward a couple hours, I was completely out of it, half drunk, half asleep. When I remembered I had a DoorDash delivery, I stumbled to the front door, opened it, and something caught my eye. The side gate. It was wide open. Now here's the thing, we keep that gate tied shut with this old blue twine. It doesn't unlatch on its own. Someone had deliberately untied it. I just stood there, heart thumping. Most normal people would have run back inside and alerted everyone. But I was buzzed and stupid. I left the food on the porch and started creeping around the house. It was dark, but I could make out shapes. The trees, the fence, the shed, then suddenly pressure. Around my neck, a rope. Something tight, sharp. Someone was behind me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't scream. I flailed my arms, kicked my legs, and tried to twist away. But it was like wrestling a ghost. I don't even know how I broke free. Maybe I got lucky and stepped on his foot. Maybe he lost balance, but I fell forward and gasped for air. He tackled me. I remember fingers clawing at my face, nails digging into my cheeks. And then, he ran. Just like that. Gone. I collapsed on the lawn, bleeding, breathless, and in complete shock. I couldn't even cry out at first. When I finally did, the guys rushed out. Theo looked like he'd seen a ghost. An ambulance, a hospital, some shots, a nurse who asked, "Do you know him?" I didn't. Police came and went, took my statement, didn't find him. Said without a clear face or ID there wasn't much they could do. And guess what? I moved out the next week. Graduation photos? Yeah, those are fun. I'm grinning in every one, wet 4 red scratches on my cheek. Theo drove me to the grad ceremony. He didn't say much. I think that night messed him up more than he'd admit. I don't know who that guy was, but I don't think he was just homeless. I think Theo's mouth got us marked.